to your right.
Do you think it can be both?
No. You know,
That there is a lack of knowing how to set boundaries for the system, and also awareness in non-dual state.
yeah. There can be awareness of it.
Yeah.
Um, and at the same time, it's like if this entanglement happens,
Mm-hmm.
then it sets up a dependency rather than a freedom. Because, yeah, we started talking about it yesterday, about how people can be in a disassociated state and have a sense that that's awareness.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not actually. It's actually just they're not connected even with anything, with themselves or anything. So, how does that capacity to start to really make fine distinctions develop?
Can I say the way I see it?
Yeah, of course.
Because somehow from my experience, it seems like there is a recognition on a certain level where there's quite clear seeing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Although we never sure, but that's the experience. And on the same time, um, I see the system having lots of problems with setting boundaries. So I'm really wondering where I'm at.
Okay. Yeah. So I understand. So there's a recognition of this, that your system hasn't developed the capacity to set boundaries. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now, when I'm with you, I can sense that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now, if I merge completely with you, and your system doesn't know how to set boundaries, something interesting happens. That's all I can say. Because it doesn't. In a sense, you have to come back for those boundaries, for that capacity.
You have to come back?
You have to. That has to be developed.
Yeah.
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 And otherwise, what happens is
that you just keep floating around.
You float around. You
Yeah.
know, it's like it becomes a dissociated space.
Uh-huh.
So, in that recognition, then there's, you could say, okay, wow, how does boundaries get learned? So that sets up an inquiry. Yeah? It sets up an interest.
Yeah.
Rather than, okay, yeah, now this is it now. Okay, I'm there. And where you find people, yes, nothing's real, it doesn't matter. And they speak as if, as awareness, but it's not true.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. So there's a confusion that remains.
I can see that. There is no confusion now.
Yeah. Can we pass the mic?
So I think that, I don't know, in my perception and listening to you, it's like, it's almost like I want to invite you not to worry about or take into consideration how we or I will take your merging or your non-dual state, because I just see, I know from my experience with Babaji and everything that yeah, we all got hung up on him. We went into this dissociation and all of it, but you get yourself out eventually. I mean, it's like it's not it, so you have to keep going. So I just feel like I want to invite you to be free to be in your non-dual all the time and not worry, because it's like we'll get through it, kind of thing. I mean, if you're considering where we're coming from, when you've already, how do you say, pioneered something, I don't know, I feel it's beneficial to just be that in that place, and I understand what you're saying, I really do, but
Yeah.
I also am questioning whether that's.
It's a beautiful questioning. You see, for me, it's just a question of being able to meet a person right where they're at. It's a question of a story from Ramana that I've told before that for me really touches me. Was there was a woman who'd lost a whole family, and she was bereft, absolutely. She couldn't find peace. She was absolutely couldn't come out of grieving. And she went to all the swamis, and they all told her, look, none of it's real, or you'll meet them again, or it's your karma. I mean, so many different ideas around it. None of them helped her at all. She couldn't eat, she couldn't sleep, she just was shocked, basically, couldn't function. And then she went to Ramana, and when she met him, he sat with her and he wept for half an hour. And when that was over, the grief was gone for her. So
wasn't that what is? Isn't that meeting her in a non-dual state? I mean, he's actually.
You see, it's like I could say this. There was certainly enough that he could have just remained as the absolute, not moved, not blinked an eye. But he would never have addressed that grief and that capacity. I mean, see, to me, that's the mark of someone that's really matured. Someone that was, you could say, the nervous system was mature, Ramana didn't have to even speak to. And someone that was confused, he would give them a mantra. He didn't only have one way. He would always meet someone, what was appropriate for them, what would bring them. And that was what Buddha did. He developed all these different practices to try and have something that could reach everyone, no matter where they were at. And yet the heart of the Diamond Sutra, or the Heart Sutra, if you read it, it's this, it's pure this. But most people could never understand it. So it didn't help them at all. So then his interest was, how do you meet each person right where they're at? So, if there's something going on, that gets addressed. So if I watch how it's moved in me, at first, the first meetings were just only, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? And it hadn't, that was all that interested me. And for some people it was really helpful. But there were many people who saw something and had some experience, or they recognized something, but because of the way their nervous system was wired, at the end of it they felt even worse than before, because their lives at home were a mess, and it wasn't being addressed. And I saw the same thing in how this system functioned. In the meetings, there could be this clarity, but then go home and have huge arguments and fights and all that kind of stuff going on, and going, wait a second, something, it's like in the middle of a fight, I would go, okay, bring my attention to awareness, and then, of course, and from that perspective, this fight is silly, and the fight would stop, but there would be my partner going, this is bullshit, because, a little while later, the same dynamic would be going on in me. It never actually got addressed. And it came to a head for me one day, walking along the beach at Byron, just beautiful white sand beach and dolphins in the water, and perfect day, and just feeling all the stress in my system. Going, wait a second, there's no reason for this stress at all, and yet I can feel the capacity to enjoy this moment isn't here. The system is running, and going, okay, wait, that's interesting. What's going on with that? And that started this whole investigation on what I call drinking and kissing now, where, okay, the system was in a survival mode, even though there was no reason for it. It's just the way, my family inheritance, I can say. Could see it. And I could see how much it was unpleasant for Micah. Micah really didn't enjoy being around me when my system was running like that. And before it had escaped my radar, I was so used to it, I just didn't notice it. To me, that was normal. And it was only when it became clear that then it started to quieten down. Now it's so different in here. So, many people, we've been journeying together now for years. And what I see is that as it gets finer and there's a capacity to read the signals clearer, it's so much deeper in the Sangha. I mean, that's how it feels to me. It's like a lot of the ripples that were going on, the bouncing around, are met in so much more gracious way. And I'm seeing shifts in people that have had difficulty their whole lives, connecting with anyone or anything. And it's beautiful to me. I can just say it like that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Isaac, for explaining that, because I was understanding something a little different.
Okay.
And so thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah. It's not, yeah. Another way.
Meditated and it's
not No. analysis, it's just meeting. It's like in all of us, for some of us, you could say we're adult, but yet we're functioning with like a 2-year-old nervous system. And so, no, so the thing is, on the surface it looks like you're talking to an adult, but actually when you feel inside there's like something else going on entirely. And you can't approach it in a rational way. It doesn't respond to ration at all. It responds, that nervous system responds actually to touch, to being held, to a feeling of safety. And, if you start saying there's no one here, it actually freaks a person out. Entirely. Okay, she wants to speak Korean.
Yeah, I was when you were saying that when you put your attention to awareness,
Yeah.
isn't it that, and you make the story about Ramana, isn't it that somehow from awareness there is still a bit of a distinction between the non-dual state and the dual world, and if that solves that there is just one? Can you follow me?
Yeah. The difficulty is, we saw yesterday when we were speaking about knowing what awareness. What I see is that in quite a few people, what they associate as awareness is actually a disassociated state. And this can go on for years. And so, no problem with going on for years. Maybe that's, you could make an argument for that's this lifetime. But if there is a way to address it, why not address it? If there is a way to bring it into view, how beautiful is that? Without making it wrong or bad, just, okay. I remember in Lucknow there was a time when there'd been a lot of people that had spent years in Lucknow with Papaji, and Papaji started doing private interviews with people, which he didn't usually do, and it blew him away to see where most people were actually hanging out, because his message was so simple and so clear, but there was so much confusion in the Sangha that never got spoken to. And it troubled him. I know it troubled him. Or at least it looked like that to me. I don't know.